Hello everyone, welcome to Kimberbell Digital Dealer Exclusives designs through Quilt Beginnings. I'm so excited. We are on the month of April. I cannot believe it's already April. I feel like I just barely welcomed March. So fun to be here. I'm super excited to do this project with you. This is our project for this month. It's a little reading pillow. It's just darling. It's super fun to make. We use Kimberbell's quilted pillow blanks, which are really awesome because it already has the zipper installed for us. And we're going to learn how to do some applique, how to use different textures of fabric and their different embellishments. Then we're going to sew this into a pocket and put in our pillows. So let's go. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our kit. You all should have received a Kimberbell quilted pillow blank, and you'll notice that it is serged around all four sides, but it is not sewn up because we are going to sew it up at the end after we put on our pocket. And because Kimberbell's so awesome, the zipper is already installed for us. So it makes it super easy and quick to work on these Kimberbell blanks. All right, so you all should have received one of those. In your kit, you also received half yard of some cream fabric, like a muslin. We have white fabric, which is going to be for our book ends. Then we've got our accent piece, which is going to be the strip on the top of the pocket and also our handle. Okay. 3 different pieces of fabric for the books, Kimberbell pink embroidery felt and Kimberbell navy blue embroidery leather. So lots of different textures to this, but it's going to be super fun and really cute to stitch on. So, all right. And then also in your kit, you should have received a piece of medium tearaway stabilizer. And you'll want to use a 5x7 hoop for this design. Okay? And I always like to have my instructions printed out and ready to go for me so I can follow along. And I take notes as I go along, things I want to remember for next time I'm doing this technique. It's always great to have a little resource there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to page 5. Okay, again, here's the materials needed, and it was already all included in your kit. Except for the fusible backing, which is kind of like an SF 101. It's a personal preference if you want to use that. I also have my thing of Kimberbell paper tape. Okay. And yeah, and you'll also want a water soluble pen. So I've also got one of those here as well. Okay. So page 5, you'll notice that this is a 2-part project. First, we're going to work on embroidering the design first, and then part 2 will be bringing it all together. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and start there. And right now we are just preparing our background fabric. Okay, so our background fabric, let's go back to materials needed, pocket front and pocket lining. So before we get into hooping everything, let's go ahead and cut our fabrics down. Okay, so this is the pocket front and pocket lining. It should be half a yard. And we need 2 13 by 21 inch pieces. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move this out of the way. All right, you can give this a press if you want to. I'll worry about that later. So we need to have 13. Okay. And then, because I know my width of fabric is 42 inches, I can just go ahead and cut the fold off. And then I've got 21. Okay. I'll also trim my selvages off. Okay. All right, we're done with that. And let's just continue cutting down our pieces just so we're all ready, okay? Fabric 1 is the pages, which is a fat 16th, okay? And this is the white fabric, okay? And we need to cut it down to 5.5 by 6.5. All right, 6.5 by 5.5. Put those to the side. Okay, that's done. The Inspire book spine. So if you'll see on the picture here where it says Inspire, that is the orange fabric. Okay, so I'm going to take the orange fabric here and we're going to cut this down to 2.5 by 4.5. Okay, so now we're going to take fabric 3. This is going to be the book spine, the pocket accent, and the handle. So we gave you a fat 1/8 for this, so you'll want to completely open this up. Okay. And we're first going to cut a 2-inch strip. Okay. All right, so we're going to cut 2 inches. Then we're going to cut 2.5. And then I'm going to move this over because we are going to cut a 4-inch strip. Okay, get rid of that. All right, then we're going to go back through the list because we need to grab the 2-inch strip that we just cut. And we're going to subcut it to 4.5 inches. Okay, 4.5. And this is the book spine, which is this one right here. Okay. All right, so we'll put that to the side. Now grab your 2.5-inch strip. And it should be 21 inches long, which I am right there, and I'm going to cut my selvage off because that's right at just past 21 inches. Okay. Then we'll grab the 4-inch strip that we cut and subcut it to 4 by 9. right. Okay, fabric number 4 is the Dream book cover. All right, and we gave you a piece of the navy fabric for this. So we need to cut it to 1.5 inches by 5. So 1.5 by 5. Okay. Now the custom book spine, what it means by custom is we're actually going to add a name to this if we'd like, and I'll show you that here later of how to bring in another design on top of this design, okay? And we need a 1.5, 2 by 4.5 inch strip, okay? So we're gonna cut 2 inches. Okay, by 4.5. Right. Okay, then we've already cut for you a piece of the felt, all right, but we need to subcut it first. Okay, so it's going to, this is already 2.5 inches, let's see, 2.5 inches by 12, and we need to subcut it 2 inches by 6, so I'm going to go to 2. And then turn it and cut at 6. Then I'm going to turn this back over because now we need to trim it down to 1.5. Okay, by 5. And then we've already cut the embroidered leather for you at the right size, so you can just go ahead and add that to your pile. All right, as a recap, you'll have your embroidery leather, 2 pieces cut down of the felt. This is, let's see, fabric number 1. You should have a 5.5 by 6.5 inch piece of fabric 1. Fabric 2 is the Inspire, which is the orange. Fabric 3, you should have 3 different pieces. We've got the book spine, which should be the same width as the orange. We've also got the pocket accent, which is 2.5 by 21. And then the handle, which is 4 by 9. Then for fabric 4, we have the Dream book cover, which is the top, and it should be 1.5 by 5. Custom book spine should be 2 by 4.5. Fabric 6 is our pocket front and pocket lining. I know that's a lot at first, but it's good to be organized and know that you have all your pieces cut and ready to go. All right, so let's just put these aside. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get into doing the project of preparing our pieces and hooping our stabilizers. So go ahead and grab your 5 by 7 hoop with the medium tearaway. And you can go ahead and hoop this if you'd like. However, we are going to need to put this into our hoop as well. So what I actually do at this point, I'm going to fold the stabilizer in half and then half the other way, so I can get my crosshairs. And I actually will take my water-soluble pen and just mark them real quick, because this is going to help center our project, okay? You don't have to do this, but it's a little bit easier for me to know what I'm doing next, okay? So we'll put that to the side. You are welcome to put fusible backing or SF101 to the back of these pieces if you would like. Okay. All right. Now we are on part 1. We are on step number 4, and it says, with right side up, mark the center of the pocket front fabric with a water-soluble pen and ruler. So how I measure this too is, again, I'm going to fold it in half, give it a good finger press, open it up, fold the other way, and finger press. So then when I open this up, I can just take my ruler, line it up on that fold, mark, okay, there. Then I'm going to do the same going the other way. Okay. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but the marks are there. Okay. And with this fabric, there's actually not really a right or a wrong side because it is a solid. So don't stress too much if you can't figure out which is which. Just pick one and go with it, okay? All right. So now I'm going to flip it back around towards me. So then on step 5, it says it wants me to draw a horizontal line 1 inch above the crosshairs. So I'm going to line this up on that line that I previously drew, measure up 1 inch, and I'm going to draw another line. And it wants me to label the line A. So make sure you use like a water-soluble pen for this because you don't want to use a regular pen. All right. Okay. That is all the markings we have to do. Now, this is where my stabilizer comes into play, where I can match up the A line, okay? So remember where we marked A? Okay, I'm going to line it up on that line that I made on my stabilizer, okay? And then I'm going to open this up. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paper tape and tape my fabric to the stabilizer. This is going to hold it in place. Now I will take my hoop place the bottom part of the hoop underneath. And then on your hoop, there are going to be markings right here. And I'm going to line up line A with those horizontal markings right here. Okay, so I might have to move this down. Be patient with yourself when doing this. Okay. Sometimes I like to get under here and then hold it with my fingers so then I can just place this right there. You might have to unscrew your hoop a little bit more. And then I know that my horizontal line is straight, but I notice my vertical is not, so I want to kind of move that around. Like I said, just be patient with yourself as you do this. And just get as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, once you've got that, go ahead and tighten the hoop up. The beauty of these videos is you can pause me and then work on this and then come back, right? Okay, so I've got it lined up vertical and horizontal. I promise that's the hardest part of this whole project you'll have to do, okay? All right, we're on to step 7, and it says load the desired embroidery file into the machine. So we'll go ahead and add that to the machine, and then what it wants us to do is start stitching placement lines, and then of where to put our fabric. Then we'll do tack down lines and trim. And I'll go over this throughout the video as well as the process of that, and you're going to be repeating that several times. So don't worry too much. You'll get lots of practice in. Okay. All right. So let's go over to our machine and load the embroidery file. All right. So I am working on the Baby Lock Altair today, and this is a sewing and embroidery machine. So when I go to sew or get to the sewing part, I can easily switch between those two things. Okay, so first off, I'm going to come to embroidery, and on this screen, I am going to click USB. Okay, and I have several cute designs on here, but what I want is the book cover. This will give me a little preview. I love this screen. It's so big and bright and great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click set. All right, and there we have it. Okay, now what I'm going to do while we're bringing in design files, remember how I said you can add the child's name to this section of the book? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to add a name to this, and it might be a little bit different for different machine brands that you might have, but it's still the same technique. Okay, so first I want to bring in the design file. Obviously we are doing the pillow, the book pillow design, and Kimberbell left open a space right there for us to add a name. So it's super easy. All you have to do, bring up the design, then go ahead and click add again, and it will take you to the front screen. And what's really fun is Baby Lock has built-in fonts here, so I'll come to folder 3, and I have all these different fonts and scripts, okay? So today I am actually going to be making one for Billy, who is Kathy's grandson. So, which one should I do? This one? That looks fun. Okay, so on here I can easily add the text. So I'm going to just go ahead and spell it out, Billy. Billy, okay? Now you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's like too big, it's not gonna fit. Well, what I can do is if I click set right here and I come to edit, I can size the name down, okay? Do you see that? Then I can move this using my arrows. I can visually see. Okay, it's getting there, it's getting there. That almost looks too small. Okay, so if I want to make it just a little bit bigger, okay, I'm liking it more. Now say I want to do maybe a different font or text. What I could do is I come to the T here for text, and I can just delete letters. I think I'm going to do in all caps. What do you think? Billy. Okay. Now that's looking different. So let's see. Let's come back here. And let's do a different font. Really easy to do. I'm going to come down here. Let's see what those look like. And delete Billy. Okay, I like that a lot better. And I'll show you why. If I come to size, now I can really tell what the letters are. If they're too small and I do too crazy of a font, it's all just gonna like mesh together and you won't be able to tell which letter is which. And I was afraid that was gonna happen with the other font. Okay, but now it's too big, so I'm gonna click on this. This is for large, medium, and small. Medium looks good. Gonna bring it down and over. Whoop. There we go. How does that look? So play around with that. See what kind of font you want to use. If you want to do all caps, lowercase, if you want to add a little bit more to it, that is totally up to you. That is how easy it is to add text to an already programmed design, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Go back to embroidery. And now it puts the name into the line up here. It will stop to make sure I put in Billy's name. That's how easy it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we are on step number 8. Step number 8, machine step 1. You remember from the previous classes, I explained what instruction step and machine step it means. So go back and rewatch those if you aren't sure what those mean. But I am on instruction step 8, machine step 1, and it says stitch the pages placement lines. And then the box right here with the lines, that means you want to use a neutral color, because I don't want it to show through my white fabric, okay? So go ahead and stitch the placement line. Okay, now we're going to take our white piece of fabric and we are going to place this right over top those placement lines, okay? and go ahead and go to the next step of doing the tack down line. Okay, so we have now stitched the tack down line, and what it wants us to do next is to trim all the way around these, okay? All right, so let's go over to our workstation and trim this up. And I like to hold my fabric at like a, I don't know, 45-degree angle. So then I can get right up close to the stitch, but not cut the threads, okay? All right, after we have that trimmed up, it wants us to do, we're on step 12. It wants us to stitch the page's detail, and it has a gray thread. So I'm gonna go ahead and change my thread to gray and stitch the page's detail, okay? Okay. Remember, cut your threads at the top, pull from the bottom. And this machine is so easy to thread. Just bring it up and around. Click the magic button, and it's threaded for me. So awesome. Okay, go ahead and stitch the page's detail. Okay, so we have the page's detail stitch done now. And what we are going to do, we're on step 13. It wants us to stitch the Inspire book cover placement line. After that, you're going to tape the fabric or felt over that placement line. You're then going to do a tack down line and trim, okay? And that is the same exact method you're going to do until step 41, okay? So go ahead, we are going from 13 to 41, doing the exact same method, and thank heavens for Kimberbell's awesome instructions and pictures to help us know exactly what to do and to remind us to trim after each one, okay? So go ahead and do step 13 to 41. Okay, we finished our last tack down line for our books. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up, and then what it's going to have us do is the lettering. So we're going to do the word inspire, and then we're going to have some detail stitches on the cover, and then it will have us do dream. And we'll keep going from bottom to top of all the different sayings and detail stitches, okay? And then it will have us do satin fill stitches. So this will take a little bit longer to stitch out, But now it's time for you to play around with color, make it your own with the thread. So, okay, and then when we come back, I'll have all of this stitched out, and then we'll work on putting our pillow together. It's that simple, but it's all about the details in this pillow. So go ahead and start from instruction step 41 all the way to the end, instruction step number 57. Okay, have fun. All right, so we have finished stitching out our design. Super fun and cute. Hopefully you added someone's name in there, or maybe the title of your favorite book. That would be fun. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take it out of the hoop. So we'll unscrew this, take it out. And I always put my hoops back together just to keep them safe and protected, okay? All right, so we're done with that. And now it wants us to gently tear away the excess stabilizer from the back. Okay, and I always like to do this at an angle. I find that I have better results pulling it off that way. And that's so easy. Don't worry about getting into the middle of the books, pulling the stabilizer out of there. We don't need to worry about it. Also, I'd hate for you to pull some stitches or whatever. So just go ahead and leave it there. We just want to get the bulk out, so then when we turn this over, you don't see anything through there, okay? All right, so we'll just toss that and pull off the tape. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and set this to the side for right now. We're gonna use our sewing machine for the rest of the project, okay? But we will get to this a little bit later, so just go ahead and fold it up, put it to the side, and we are gonna grab our lining piece, our handle piece, and our pocket accent piece, all right? And the first thing I want you to do is add SF101, which is a Shapeflex Pellon, Shapeflex fusible interfacing, okay? And I want you to add it to all three pieces here, okay? This is gonna give it more stability, especially where this is going to be the handle. Your little one will be tugging it around. This will just give it extra stability, which will be great, okay? And then I also like to put it on the back of the muslin piece, so then it doesn't show through, okay? It keeps its color. All right, so once you've added the fusible backing to that, we will go on to we're on part 2, step number 2. And it says fold the handle fabric in half lengthwise, wrong sides together. So I know that this piece here is my handle fabric, okay? So I'm just gonna put that to the side. I'm gonna bring my pressing mat over. I have my wool pressing mat, which is so great, especially for embroidery. Okay, so it wants me to fold this in half lengthwise, wrong sides together, and give it a good press. Okay. Okay, so now we'll go on to instruction step 3, and it wants us to open up the handle. Okay, so I see I have that crease, that fold line that I just pressed. And now it wants me to fold both raw edges towards that center crease line, okay? You can see why you press it beforehand, so then you have a nice reference point. And then I'm gonna press. Whew, this iron is hot. That's good. Okay, and then I'll do that on the opposite side. Okay. So I've got my 2 edges coming towards the center, and then I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise again, so there are no raw edges. Okay? And again, I'm going to press it really good. All right. Whew. Very hot. Let it cool down if you need to. But we're now going to go to our sewing machine and top stitch on either side of this. So it's going to close this up. Okay, but we also want to have a nice stitch on the opposite side. Okay, so we're going to top stitch just right along each side. Doesn't matter how much you go in. It can be a personal preference, right? And it wants us to back stitch at the beginning and the end of the seam. Okay, so let's go to our sewing machine and top stitch those down. And I like to use embroidery thread at this point because it is going to be more of a decorative stitch on top, and so I like the shine that the embroidery thread uses. Okay, so don't be afraid to use this when you're in sewing mode. I don't use embroidery thread for piecing, but for decorative stitches or top stitches, I tend to use embroidery thread. Okay. All right, and I'm actually going to turn on my guide here. It's hard to tell on the camera, but I have a red guide beam right here that helps me keep my fabric straight and my sewing straight. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And I need to back stitch. And then I can keep going. Back stitch. There we go. Okay. Look how nice that looks. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but there you go. Okay, and we'll do that on the opposite side as well. Okay, there we have it. Now there's one extra step. This is if you would like to. I think I'm going to on this one. Kimberbell encourages you to do a decorative stitch right down the middle. So it's a great way to show off your decorative stitches on your sewing machine, get to use them, because I don't think we use them enough. So go ahead and pick a decorative stitch on your machine and have a little fun doing that. You could do multiple in here or just one down the center. Okay, there we have it. I decided to do, I don't even know what they call this, but it's a fun stitch that goes back and forth, kind of like a zigzag, but then also arrows. I don't know. I think it's just fun. Adds a little bit more character to my handle. Okay, so we're done with that part. Let's move on to step 8. Okay, and it wants us to arrange the pocket fabrics and pocket accent fabric right side up as shown. So look at the picture here. I can see it has the books, the front of it, facing this way. Okay. Then my pocket accent fabric right side up, right there. And then the right side of my lining piece, right side up. Okay. Just look at the picture and see how they have it. So it goes the front, accent, lining, and they're all right side up. Okay. All right. Now it wants us to take our lining piece, or excuse me, our accent piece, and bring it right sides together with our front piece. Okay? So stitch the top of the pocket front fabric to the pocket accent fabric using a 1/4 inch seam. Okay? So we'll go ahead and sew that down. Okay? And it's okay if it's longer. Just center this as best you can. Okay? All right, so now we're going to take our lining piece, place it right sides together with this, and sew a 1/4 inch. Sew a 1/4 inch. Okay. All right, so we now have sewn these 3 pieces together. And what it wants us to do is to fold the pocket in half widthwise, right sides together. Okay, so we're going to line up these edges. Okay. We want to fold this in half as well. And just give it a finger press. Okay. Move that out of the way. All right. Now we need to trim this down. Okay. So we need to measure 19 inches in width. Okay, so I'm going to look here. I'm at 21.5. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll trim 1 inch off of each side. Okay. All right, so I'll come here. And I'm trimming from this edge, not this edge, okay? So I'm gonna come here and 1 inch is about right there. Be sure to use the measurements on your mat. And then I'll measure an inch using my ruler on the opposite side, an inch in. Okay, let's see where this is at. Okay, so I'm at 20 inches and I need to get 19. Okay, so I'm going to do a ½ inch on either side because that will end up being an inch off, okay? Okay, ½ inch on this side. And ½ inch on this side. And 19 inches exactly. That's what we want, okay? So if you're ever trimming anything down, you want to do equal amounts on either side. You don't want to just cut off one side the entire amount to get to 19, okay? We want to do the equal amounts on both sides. Okay. All right. So now we are on step 13. And it wants us to measure 12½ inches down from the top of the pocket and trim across the bottom. So this is the top of the pocket. We need to measure 12½ inches down. Okay. And I'm just going to do a little mark right here. Okay. Turn it this way. And I see it's about like 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to line it up. I know this is a straight edge because I just cut it, so I'm going to line up my ruler on that edge. And then where I marked it, that's where I'm going to place this, and I'm going to trim that down. So now this should be 12½. Okay? All right. Step 14, it says sew the bottom edges of the pocket together with a ½ inch seam allowance. Okay, so I always like to circle or mark when the changes from 1/4 inch. So we need to do a ½ inch seam allowance across the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I've done a ½ inch seam allowance right here, and it wants us to turn the pocket right side out. Okay, so ta-da, there's an opening there. So I'm just gonna flip this right side out. All right. We're getting there. We are getting there. Okay, so now what it wants us to do is to measure that this is 12 inches. 12 inches, and then I know this is 19. Okay, so I'm going to press this well. Okay. And you want to be careful. You want to use a pressing cloth if you put your iron onto this, but I'm just ironing around it. Okay. And at this point, you could take a little spray bottle to get rid of those marks that we did at the beginning. They'll just wash away because you used a water-soluble pen. Okay. Now, let's get to our pillow blank. Okay, so let's just set this aside. Okay. And we're gonna place our pillow cover right side up onto a flat surface, it says, which I got here. And we want the zipper pull on the left. Okay, so I have it on the right, so I need to flip this around. Okay, so I'm going to flip this around. My zipper pull is on the left. And it wants me to measure up 1 inch above the zipper and mark it with my water-soluble pen. So I'm going to do it along this side. I have my 1 inch mark lined up on the zipper. Okay. Okay. So I have it marked 1 inch above the zipper. Okay, it wants us to place the pocket right side down, aligning the bottom edge of the pocket with that line. So here's the bottom edge. I'm going to flip it over and line up that edge with that 1 inch mark line that we just did. Okay, and we're going to pin this in place. Okay, now I've pinned it along that marked edge, and it wants us to stitch the pocket to the pillow using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're going to sew a 1/4 inch right along this edge. Okay? All right, so we've sewn a 1/4 inch all the way down. Okay, and now it wants us to flip our pocket right side up. Oh my goodness. We're doing it. We are doing it. Okay. And it wants us to stitch the side edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's go ahead and pin this together. After you do this, you're going to make so many of these. You're going to get the hang of it. And the fact that we don't have to put a zipper in, that's awesome. Okay, so I am going to trim this down a little bit just so it lines up with my pillow blank, okay? So I'm gonna flip this over. And it's not going to matter that I cut it off on that side because I know it's centered with my pillow blank, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and pin this side. Okay, we're gonna sew a 1/4 inch on either side here, okay? Okay, we now have it all sewn into or onto the pillow blank, okay? Now what it wants us to do is gently fold the pillow cover in half lengthwise, right sides together, okay? And we're going to mark this center fold with a pin. Okay. Now we're going to unfold it. And we're going to measure 2.5 inches on either side of this pin. And we're going to mark it with our water-soluble pen. Okay, so right here, 2.5 inches. And 2.5 inches. Oops, right here, 2.5. Always double check. Okay. So 2.5, 2.5. Okay. Now it wants us to take our handle, all right, and we are going to match the raw edges right along the edge of the pillow cover in place, okay? So I'm just gonna pin this in place. It's pretty thick. You're welcome to use Wonder Clips if you'd like. That's always a good option. Okay. And we'll clip or pin right here. Okay. And you can kind of manipulate this as you go to sew. And it might come in this way, but when you go to sew, you can just straighten it out. Okay. All right. It wants us to now unzip the zipper halfway. I'm actually going to do it like 3/4 of the way. Okay. Make sure you unzip that. And we're going to fold this in half, line it up on those edges. Okay. On step 25, it wants us to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to circle that 1/2 inch. And we're going to sew around the 3 sides, okay? But it wants us to stop half an inch away from the zipper teeth, okay? Because we don't want to sew over those. They're already sewn in, okay? So half an inch. You can kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here. I don't want to sew over the zipper teeth, okay? All right, so let's go to our sewing machine. Half inch all the way around, stopping about half an inch above the zipper teeth, okay? And then as we go along, you can straighten the handles out. All right. All right, so we have now sewn all the way around, okay? And now it wants us to turn our pillow cover right side out through that zipper opening. All right, so we'll poke those corners out. You could take your R&K turning tool and really get those corners turned out and defined. We've got our handle. We've got our pocket. Look at that. And it's fully lined, no raw edges. And all you have to do now is slip your pillow insert inside, zip it back up, and then put some books, a little flashlight, something, wrap it up, and give it to that special someone in your life, a book lover, even yourself. I'm always a promoter of gifting things to yourself as well. So there you have it. We completed Kimberbell's digital dealer exclusive for the April design. So excited. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with and personalize it yourself.